Only got 7 grand to spend? Take your pick from a list of 59 new cars. Feel the need for something raunchy? Well, at the last count, there were 62 convertibles in the price lists. So, things couldn't be better. We're spoilt for choice. Ford, for instance, offers its British customers 153 different models. 154 would be better, though. This is the very latest Mustang, a huge hit in America, but not sold in the UK. Ford say there wouldn't be enough demand to justify tooling up for right-hand drive production. Me? I'm not so sure. Round town, the noise ensures that passers-by turn and stare. The looks keep their attention, and the price would have them all scuttling off to the nearest Ford dealership. It's just $22,000. And that's not bad for a 5-litre V8 convertible, especially one with an electric hood and CD player, air conditioning, leather seats, cruise control. But you know my favourite thing about this car? It's the gadgets it doesn't have. It doesn't have adaptive damping or traction control, just a big engine up front and rear-wheel drive. It's not a car for sissies.
I'm running with the pack, running with the pack, I'm running with the pack, never looking back. You tried to keep me in cages.
Ford's old-fashioned approach still works, though, because the Mustang at Silverstone, and with Michael Schumacher at the wheel, can do this.
How does it feel?
So far, all right.
So just like your Benetton?
Yeah, there's a tiny difference.
Just a tiny difference. It's quite soft.
It's American.
Metal pedal, press the metal pedal.
That's hurt. It's calling you. You hurt your knee.
Bridge. Bridge at 90. That's a bit of a slide. No, that's a lot of a slide. Oh my God.
Guess I have to put your flat feet on the ground. When I said that,
Good grip. What? Has good grip.
It's good grip. This is fast. This is very, very, very fast. Press the middle pedal. Press it. Christ. So you want to take up rallying?
Yeah.
I'm not sure what I want most, a sick bag or a Mustang. Ford are nanas for not importing this car. And Toyota is no better. Now, we in Britain know all about the Lexus, don't we? Unsurpassed build quality, blah, blah, Mercedes rival, blah, blah. But what we don't know is that outside of Britain, you can buy this, the Lexus Coupe.
Whereas the Mustang is glued to the road with suspension from the Cortina, and you need someone like Michael Schumacher to get the most out of it, the Lexus Coupe has so many gizmos under its pretty, pretty body that even the ham-fisted begins to feel like a Grand Prix star.
So here I am doing 100 miles an hour on a private test track, of course. Now, what I'm about to do ordinarily would put me either in prison or hospital. But just watch this. This time, I think I'll leave the traction control on. But did you notice how flat the car stayed through those corners? That's because it's got active ride. The car wants to lean, but the computer won't let it. And that's just the tip of the technological iceberg. If you want to see the rest, we're going to have to pull up. Check this out. Looks exactly like a TV screen, which is a coincidence because that's exactly what it is, though it's not connected up at the moment. But it's also my radio controls. You just choose a channel on it. In addition, it's your air conditioning controls. Just touch the screen to choose where you want the air coming from and how fast. Then it's a trick computer. It tells you everything you need to know about where you've been, where you're going, and the state of the car. And then as its pièce de résistance, just watch this. It's satellite navigation. That is unbelievable. It's telling me how to get from one side of Tokyo to another, which is handy. Except for one small thing. I'm in Berkshire. Can you hear that? That's the sound of a 4-litre V8 engine sending 280 horsepower through an automatic gearbox to the rear wheels. Listen again. And I'm doing 70 miles an hour.
This car is about as hectic as an Enya album, but it costs £75,000. That's academic, though, because Toyota won't import it. They say the import quotas imposed by the EC on Japanese cars makes it not viable.
Pity. And those same import restrictions cause absolute chaos every morning in suburban Britain as thousands and thousands of people take their offspring to school in cars like this.
As tall as the cliffs of Moher and quite a lot heavier, they're a damn nuisance.
Now, wouldn't it be absolutely great if we could have all the benefits of an off-roader like this without the size? Well, you can, or you could, if Daihatsu would sell you this. If ever they make a film called Honey, I Shrunk the Discovery, this would get the starring role. It's the Myra RV4, a four-wheel drive, 4-valve per cylinder, turbocharged 660cc microcar. Ain't no Mustang, but it could be good fun.
Despite the bull bars and the raised ground clearance, it's no mountaineer, but it can deal with anything all those suburban mums care to throw at it. This car may be a slightly steep £13,500, but it's adorable. You could love it like you love your family dog.
And you really could too, because while the Fords and the Toyotas and the Daihatsus of this world won't import cars like this, it doesn't necessarily mean you can't have one. Or a Unos Cosmo, whatever one of those is. Or a Honda Beat, that great little mid-engine two-seater we looked at on Top Gear a couple of years ago. Or even one of the greatest muscle cars I've ever driven, the Nissan Skyline GTR. No, the manufacturers can't sell you any of these cars, but I know a man who can. What would you say would be the biggest advantage of buying a car that you can't actually buy in England?
The cars that are coming from Japan now are several years in advance of most of what we see from America or Europe. You're actually getting a car that's more modern, more technically advanced.
You import these cars. What about warranties?
Warranties is luckily no problem. A 3-year warranty, fully comprehensive, comes with every car.
And spare parts?
Spare parts, again, no problem. We keep a huge stock of them, but they can be flown over from Japan as quickly as a plane can carry it.
So owning these cars then is no real problem?
No, it isn't. Quite a delight, in fact.
Delightful they may be, but don't expect them to be easy. Your local dealers are reluctant to service cars like this, so you have to seek out specialists. Boring point, I know, but I don't want you to come crying to me when your Lexus Coupe sat-nav starts saying you're on the moon.
Just a gentle reminder to say you have but 3 days to visit the 1994 Motor Show at the NEC in Birmingham. And if you'd like to see the show in real style this Sunday, stay in a 5-star hotel and be chauffeur-driven to the doors in a Jaguar XJR, then we have a little competition for you. Thank you, my man. This year, the Mini is celebrating its 35th birthday, so we want you to tell us how much the Mini cost when it was launched in 1959. Get it right and you could be our lucky winner. As a clue, the average weekly wage was £13.49. Beer cost 6p a pint, and an Aston Martin DB4 was a trifling £4 grand. So how much did the Mini cost? Was it A, £496, B, £578, or C, £695? Call us on 0891 33 9966. If you're buying a new car, don't be taken in by all this cackle-a-bumba and hype. The motor industry would have us believe the market is on a roll, but there are black mutterings that say that sales to private buyers are actually little better than last year. Ask yourself this one question: if business was that brisk, would the car makers be reducing their prices? No, but that is exactly what they're doing. Volkswagen has slashed the price of its Golf GTI from $14,298 to $12,995. And driver's airbag, anti-lock brakes, alloy wheels and an engine immobilizer become standard kit. Vauxhall have thrown in a few free extras with their Calibras. All get alloy wheels and you'll be able to rest your bottom on leather if you choose anything but the base model. Even the Japanese have a whole raft of cheaply priced special editions. Nissan will sell you a sunny Boston at $7,995. But apart from the silly transatlantic name, it's exactly the same as the 1.4L, which has an on-the-road price of 1,500 quid more. Some of the less popular luxury cars, like Citroen's XM, haven't been doing too well. Last year, the cheapest XM estate was listed at $17,900. This year, it's $16,315. Rover will now sell you an 820 for $14,995. At the end of last year, the cheapest was $17,495. And remember, there are plenty of dealer incentives out there, so always ask for a big discount. Unless, of course, you're buying one of these, when it'll only make you sound common.
You know, this Top Gear carry-on isn't such a bad job. No, really. I mean, only the other day I was recognised by one of the women behind the cut meat counter in the co-op. But apart from the glamour, I'd have to say that the best thing about it is that I get to ride the bikes of my dreams. Ah, the BMW R1100. Modern classic, that great bike. Oh, the Triumph Speed Triple. What a beast that was. What a performer. Ah, bellissima. The Ducati 916, I'm telling you, things just don't get any better than that. But it hasn't all been lager, shandy and skittles. Oh no, there has been the odd disturbing experience endured in the line of duty.
The Enfield Robin, diesel.
Ah, the Enfield Robin, 8.5 horsepower. Don't forget the half, will you? Oh, it didn't have a rev counter. It had an egg timer mounted on the handlebars. I don't even want to think about it. Take it away, I can't bear it.
God, what a nightmare. Thankfully, at least having got the throbbing Robin out of the way, there aren't that many bad bikes left, if any. And these days, you're as likely to find me behind the controls of some fabulous chrome-laden cruiser as you are with some exotic blood-red race replica. So let's see what two-wheel treasure Top Gear have got in store for us today, shall we? I forgot about the MZ. Rather obviously of Eastern European extraction, the MZ was the two-wheeled equivalent of a Trabant. And in common with the Trabby, it came equipped with a crude, yet adequate two-stroke engine that hardly changed in 60 years of production. As utilitarian as a spanner, and as good-looking as a concrete factory. Back in the bad old DDR, the average MZ would have been expected to run on fuel with the same octane rating as extracted turnip. Consequently, when confronted with real petrol, they do tend to smoke a bit.
And I'd wager that everyone who owned one of those old MZs dreamt that one morning they'd wake up to find that their clumsy cart horse had metamorphosised into a sleek thoroughbred. Well, it's happened. An MZ now produce one of the finest motorcycles that money can buy.
Dreams can come true. Look at me, babe, I'm with you. You know you got to have on. You know you got to be strong.
The Scorpion was originally intended to have a 4-stroke Austrian Rotax engine, but Yamaha was so gobsmacked by the prototype that they took the unprecedented step of offering their 5-valve 50-horsepower single. So the Scorpion now has a Japanese engine, Italian running gear, and it's assembled in Germany. But it was designed right here in Britain.
The first thing you've got to do when you present it with a project like this is you've got to realise, first of all, it's for a specific client, MZ. So you've got to be able to design something that they can make. Remember, MZ aren't the most advanced technologically of all the motorcycle companies. Then, when we got back to the office with this idea of the brief in our heads, we began to discuss what should it be like. It's a difficult thing to do. It's where you think ahead to it being finished, and what characteristics should it have. And funny enough, that's where the name came from, because we used to say, look, it should be almost as if it was standing on its fingertips. It should have its bum in the air. You should be able to see through it. It should have a sort of malevolent, sort of animal grace about it. And the nearest thing we could come to that displayed these characteristics was a Scorpion. We had to set ourselves a series of objectives, the most important factors. The first factor we set was that it should be simple. The second factor is that it should be sustainable. We were getting very sick of this idea that you buy a bike and then, say, in the Japanese market, for instance, you trash it the next year for the next supermodel. We wanted something with longer legs than that, something that lasted longer. Thirdly, something sensible. By that we mean we didn't want a rocket ship. We didn't want 200 miles an hour. 3 S's. The fourth one was we wanted something sexy. If you look back over the last 10 years or 20 years and look at the most successful designs, the most exciting motorcycles, and trace them back to who actually came up with them, you'll find that these guys actually had multigrade running through their bloodstream. It really, I think, is a requirement to successfully create a motorcycle design that you feel what the rider feels, that you understand the emotions, you understand obviously the technical and practical issues, but more importantly that you can understand how the machine makes contact with you emotionally. And to do that, I reckon, you've got to be a motorcyclist.
Well, I'm a motorcyclist, and I reckon they've got it dead right. The Scorpion is quick, but it's not so outlandishly, terrifyingly fast that you scare yourself witless every time you cock a leg over it. It's eminently chuckable in the twisty bits, charges out of bends, and perhaps most important of all, it's fun.
Sweet dreams are made of these. Who am I to disagree?
The retro look's all the rage these days, and certainly all the big 4 Japanese manufacturers will offer you a bike that looks like the superbikes they originally built back in the early 70s. Unfortunately, their enthusiasm hasn't been matched by sales, and I reckon it's because they haven't been looking back far enough. What MZ have done with the Scorpion is to evoke legendary big singles like the Velocette Venom and Gilera Saturno from nigh on half a century ago. So is the Scorpion a success? Well, they're selling them as fast as they can make them, including this one, which is a shame, because I might have been tempted to put my hand in my pocket. Never mind, I'll get the tram home.
Classic car rallying is now a hugely popular branch of motorsport. But for the 6th Classic Marathon, the organisers left behind the familiar mountains of Europe for more challenging territory. This is an oasis in Morocco on the edge of the Sahara Desert. The road to Morocco started 4 days earlier in Paris. A strange assortment of 75 vehicles had entered the first classic rally ever to hit Africa. The route through France and Spain was more of a gentle trundle, with the special sections requiring meticulous timekeeping rather than outright speed. Even the bulky Bentley Continental was unflustered. Father and son, Tom and Nick Barrow, entered one of the most unlikely machines of all, a 1958 Humber Super Snipe.
It's pretty big, but it handles quite well, and it's not too bad at all.
Takes a bit of stopping, I imagine.
Yeah, it does. Originally it was drums all round. We've upgraded it to a 61 model, which has got discs on the front, which is much better.
But why get a car of this size and then start taking it on classic rallies?
Well, the car came before any thought of rallies, really. My father went to buy a lawnmower one day, and he came back with this and the lawnmower. So that's how it started, really.
But one notable driver was already having clutch trouble. The only problem was finding a reputable dealer.
We're going to go into Seville, try and find the Ford agent and see if we can get the clutch fitted so that when we go across on the ferry we have a clutch that works, and if they can do something about the brakes as well, that would be even better. If Morocco's going to be rough, we really have to have the car in a bit better condition than it is now.
You've had a couple of punctures as well, I hear.
Yes, oh yes, we've had everything. In fact, when I went round a corner and the grab handle fell off, we decided there was nothing much left to go wrong with this car.
The honourable member for Tweedale, Ettrick and Lauderdale, in his borrowed Ford Zephyr, had a struggle on his hands. He only just made it to the boat in time to make the short trip across the Straits of Gibraltar from Algeciras to Tangier. But the meat of the marathon was still to come. At this point, the leaders proved that it's not essential to enter an ex-rally car with all its trappings for success in this game.
It's a 1963 Mark X Jaguar, which is renowned to be the most inappropriate car you could possibly rally with, so we thought we'd have a go with that. It's not too bad going downhill or on the flat with the auto, but going uphill is very slow.
So what do you think of this section that's coming up?
Sounds like good fun. Actually, a long section is going to be good for us because we'll be able to wind it up to speed, and as long as we keep it below about 120, we should be all right.
Yes, I'm sure.
In spite of problems, Rosemary Smith in her Sunbeam Tiger was facing the desert in confident mood.
We're, you know, trundling along nicely now. We've no starter motor, but we're doing okay.
So isn't it a bit precarious going off into these difficult sections in Africa with no starter motor and things like that?
We don't seem to have any option. I mean, it's either that or drop out of it. And my philosophy is you keep going until you can't go any further. The only thing I'm a bit concerned about is apparently we need a compass in various places, so I don't know how that's going to work out, but no, we'll just keep going.
After a lifetime in politics, David Steele is used to looking on the bright side.
This is a real test, Africa. We think the Zephyr may come into its own. We don't know, but we think it'll be better than all these expensive cars because it'll ride over anything.
Sir David's faith was, alas, misplaced, for the wretched Zephyr conked out on the Tangier promenade. Under the watchful eye of traditional desert transport, the rest of the field prepared for the next morning's full-speed blast. The first 20-mile speed test in the Riff Mountains sadly brought an early casualty.
We hit a big bump back there. We must have been doing well over 100. And the sump shield has actually not protected the sump and power steering hoses, and it's cracked the sump, and one of the power steering hoses is split. If we keep filling it up, maybe we can probably get it to a town. We're not competing anymore, but we're going to get to those controls. We're going to finish.
They did, last. Also batting against the odds were Hugh Morris and Peter Maguire in the smallest, slowest and oldest car on the trip. The somewhat overloaded 1930 Austin 7 Ulster Sport has a mere 747 cc's. You're looking very weather-beaten, if I may say.
Yes, I think I probably am.
completely shattered, actually.
Is it rather exhausting in this car?
It's got a very hard ride. We set it for the event. We set the back up a little bit, but it's still a bit low set. We start at the bottom. You're also deafened.
And so, the topic that had dominated everybody's thoughts for 4 days, the Sahara Desert, came into view. It was as dry and demanding as everybody had feared, and no place, I would think, to drive a 40-year-old motor car. At the oasis town, I came across a man carrying water around in a dead goat skin. I couldn't resist trying it.
Delicious.
In the desert, there are no maps, so it's out with the compass and the best of British luck.
Mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. The Japanese don't care to, the Chinese wouldn't dare to. Hindus and Argentines sleep firmly from 12 to 1, but Englishmen deter siesta. In the Philippines, they have lovely screens to protect you from the glare. In the Malay states, there are hats like plates which the Britishers won't wear. At 12 noon, the natives swoon and no further work is done. But mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun.
Surprisingly, nobody got lost and all emerged from their brief sortie into the Sahara unscathed. Even this glorious Type 46 Bugatti, which one would have thought would be enjoying a peaceful retirement in a museum somewhere. On its way to a second place was the lumbering Volvo Amazon of Frank Fennell from Dublin, helped by the masterful map reading of his navigator Colin Francis. And as the desert gave way to the twists and turns of the Atlas Mountains for the final competitive stages, no one could match the speed of Ignacio Sunsundiqui from Spain. He and his British co-driver Dave Nicholson didn't share a word of language in common, but they never got lost once. Colin Anderson and Richard Elvin's E-Type Jaguar finished third. And then there was the most dramatic prize-giving ceremony I've ever seen, held in an old desert fortress near Marrakesh. A mixture of charging cars amid charging horses. Well, the marathon's come up to expectations, and give or take 20 cars or so, all the old-timers have made it here to Marrakesh. But that's only half the story. You've also got to get back home and get all those valuable, indispensable household items purchased in the Moroccan souks back in one piece.
Next week, Tony Mason's back with a Manx rally. We drive Volkswagen's long-awaited new Polo. But before then, we tell the story of the original Ford Mustang in The Car's the Star, 7:40, Sunday on BBC Two.